FaceTime with Leaders is a platform where industry veterans come together to share their knowledge, thoughts, ideas, and best practices with one another, as well as with upcoming future leaders. In a nutshell, we attempt to encapsulate the multi-decadal learnings of all our industry leaders. We also hope that by conducting these FaceTime with Leader interviews, we can bring together a global community of eminent personalities. By bringing together such visionaries on one platform, we hope to play a part in inspiring the lives of other great leaders. Great learnings from great leaders undoubtedly assist everyone by identifying, nurturing, and working on trade secrets that have already proven a success for so many. And this is what we aim for sessions, them a gathering of industry stalwarts and a knowledge sharing community. We have one such industry veteran on FaceTime with Leaders with us today, Mr. Rajesh Joshi. We welcome you on the show, sir, today.
Thank you.
He is a seasoned communications practitioner with an impressive career spanning over 3 decades, reflecting his enduring commitment to his field. His most recent role as a consultant at The Good Edge since September 2016 underscores his expertise in reputation management and communication strategies. Working closely with leadership teams from various industries, he has been instrumental in formulating impactful messaging and conducting essential media training workshops. So our first question for the day is, could you let our viewers know in brief about your career journey?
Hello, everyone. So my name is Rajesh, and I've been in the communications field for just about 30 years, of which the first 6.5, 7 years was spent as a journalist. And then the last 23 years as a corporate communications professional. So I started my career at the Daily, which was a general newspaper, India's first and only morning tabloid. And then shifted to business journalism, where I worked with Business India and Economic Times. Subsequently, I got an opportunity to set up the communications function at HDFC Bank, and then headed media relations at the HSBC Group for about 10 years. Since then, since 2016, I've been working as a communications consultant for a company called The Good Edge. And we work with clients across the spectrum, across industries and sectors. And I also do, as you mentioned, media training and reputation management workshops for senior leadership.
So our next question is, sir, you have quite a vast purview within the communications domain industry. Which of your job roles have you enjoyed the most and why?
Actually, honestly, I have enjoyed each and every job. You know, my first, because the focus has always been on learning as much as I can at every role that I have sought to undertake. And my objective has always been, what can I learn and what can I get in this new role? So, you know, when I started at the Daily, in a general newspaper, we were extremely short-staffed. So what it meant was that I got the opportunity to do a lot of things. So while I was a copy editor and was responsible at a very young age, you know, without much experience, I was responsible for bringing out an edition on my own. And then I got a chance to write on different topics. So I covered the assembly elections, I interviewed the mayor, I wrote on civic issues, on politics, I covered cricket, wrote on business. So you know, because there weren't too many people to do those jobs, whatever you put your hand up for, you got a chance to do that. Then I shifted to business journalism. I had no idea about business journalism, to be honest, though I had been reading these magazines ever since I was a kid. I love reading, so I'm an extremely curious person. So when I got the chance to shift to business, I said, let's see what I can learn here. And given that I had no clue about it, it meant that to learn, I had to keep asking a lot of questions so that I could understand and I could learn. And it built a foundation for me for business, which I built on when I joined the Economic Times. Now, as a journalist, anyway, you have to ask a lot of questions. And I also, as a copy editor, I also had to ask a lot of questions to my reporters. Because if I didn't understand something, I cannot assume that my readers will. So if something is a little more technical, if it's something, a little too complicated,
Hmm.
then my job was to simplify it so that my readers also understand it.
Yeah.
So I, very early on, I got into this habit of asking lots of questions until I was satisfied. Then when I joined HDFC Bank, I had no background in banking and financial services. And so therefore, again, it was a very steep and very fast learning curve. I caught caught as many people as I knew from my journalist friends, from the bank itself, and picked their brains, asked a lot of questions so that I could learn. And in that, I was extremely lucky also to work with very senior leaders, like Mr. Aditya Puri, who was the CEO. And I got a chance to work very closely with him, and then later with Naina Lal Kirwai at HSBC, and to observe very closely how they work, what the leadership style is. And one thing that I realized very soon was that they too were not afraid of saying, I don't know. They were not afraid to say, tell me how this works. And Mr. Puri once, he said to me, as a leader, it is impossible for you to know all the answers.
Yeah.
You will not. So therefore, you need to always ask the right questions to all the smart people around you. And that was an extremely important learning for me. That if I don't know something, just put my hand up and say, listen, I don't know about this. Can you explain this to me? How this works?
Yeah.
I don't understand this. Can you explain this? And I think so. I was in banking at that time. If enough people had the common sense to ask questions and say, we don't understand this, I think the 2007, 2008 financial crisis might not have happened. It
So
was
true.
just too
So
many.
true.
It was just too many smart people not knowing and
No.
yet too afraid to ask, how does this
Ask each
work?
other. Yeah. Very true, sir. But that would have been a interesting journey, sir. I
It,
mean,
it
all
was,
of these different things just mm, put you into different scenarios all of a sudden, right?
yes,
And if you don't
absolutely. It
ask
was,
questions, you won't learn.
yes, absolutely. As I said, and as I said, I was extremely lucky to be surrounded by leaders who, number one, showed me that it is all right to say, I don't know. It is all right
Yeah.
to ask questions. And also leaders who were kind and gracious enough to answer my questions,
Yeah.
to satiate my curiosity. So it's
Yeah.
it's one part for me to ask the question, but the other part is for them giving me that time to answer the question and improve my knowledge. And they were very kind to do that,
Yeah.
to spend that time with me and help me understand, because I guess they too realized that my job was to take that message outside.
Yeah.
And if I don't understand something, then I will not be very effective in doing that.
True. Um, Sir, what do you believe from a communications point of view are some indispensable principles or code of ethics in the current corporate world?
See, I think in India, communications is not very widely understood. Here we still see most of the leadership still sees communications as being PR.
Hmm.
That the job is you have to get clips for the company. Actually, if you look at how the MNC companies work, how companies in the West work, communications function is a very key function and a very key strategic advisor to the leadership, to the CXO. And even for Western politicians, whether you have the president of the United States or something, their press advisor, their communications director, etc., works very closely with those leaders, because in a sense, communications function is the conscience keeper of the organization. We are the protector, the manager, and the builder of a company's reputation. Right. So for that, the first and most important thing is for us to have our own personal credibility and reputation. That as an individual, I will not do something that is unethical, that is
Hmm.
illegal, that is morally wrong. So that first I have my own personal credibility, reputation, and integrity as an ambassador and an evangelist of their organization. If I myself am not believable, if I myself lack that, I am representing my organization. then so if tomorrow, if I go to the media, if I go to my external stakeholders and say, we are a very ethical organization, we are a very transparent organization, we are this and all, and I do not represent all of those qualities, how do I expect them to believe that? So first, it has to come from my own actions. So those ethics, those values, I have to live them first. Then my personal credibility and reputation then translates into the organization that I represent. Okay, this is something that we don't do. This is something that we don't act like that. And then also it is my job, we can say I am a very transparent organization, I'm very employee friendly, I am this and I'm that. How do you walk the talk? Do you walk the talk? And it is my job. I will not be doing that job if I am not able to advise the senior leadership that, this is a gap. There is a gap between what you are saying and what you're doing.
Yeah.
I can say that we are a very transparent organization. We are a very employee friendly company, and we are very solid in terms of financials, etc. But my vendors are not being paid in time. My employees are not being treated well. So you can talk about work-life balance in the media, but today, in the age of social media, where everyone has got a voice, you will have all of those employees saying, yeah, they're slave driving me, or I'm working 14 hours, we aren't getting good increments, our salaries are delayed. So then the perception is not just limited to what we say officially. The perception is created from everything that everyone else is saying. So that perception better be consistent across all stakeholders.
Yeah.
Reputation very simply means what people are saying about us. Very short, very simple. What are people saying about us? And what people are saying about us is dictated by all of these factors.
Yeah.
It's not just what you're saying, but also what you're doing. And are you doing what you're saying?
True.
And is the person who is saying it living those values in it? So do the external stakeholders say, okay, he's saying it, I believe him. There are so many leaders that we believe when they say something. So many we don't, for whatever reason.
Yeah.
So building that trust, establishing that trust, credibility, integrity, that is a very essential part of what I do.
Yeah.
And what I say. And if I'm not living it, I will not be effective.
100%. Sir, what made you realize your potential in ESG and corporate governance?
See, let us take a step back for this. Okay, what does ESG really do? It is meant to instill public confidence in corporations, in organizations, as good corporate citizens of the community, of the country. That that we are stakeholders in the environment, especially now in these days of climate change, etc. So the E part, the environment part, was always there in terms of the CSR policies of many organizations, right, who are doing it. Now it's just that it has been brought more sharply in focus. That what are you doing for the environment? How are you mitigating your environmental footprint? So in every step of the process of your corporation, all the stakeholders that you work with, all the vendors, how are they ensuring that they have a lighter footprint on our environment? So that has been brought into a very sharp focus. Similarly, social is your engagement with all the stakeholders that you deal with. So whether it is internal or external. Now you had the departments who were doing that, right? So an HR department was doing it for your internal communications, an investor relations team was doing it for your shareholder communication. Now, again, has it been brought under one roof in terms of social? I'm not very sure. Governance, corporate governance, again, it has been the responsibility of the board. It has been the responsibility of the chairman, various other stakeholders, the investors, to ensure that there is solid, robust corporate governance in the company. Right. So all of these are meant to ensure that there is credibility and there is trust for an organization. So ESG has basically made it regulatory. So the regulator has said that through the BRSR report, we are making ESG compulsory, especially if you're among the top companies in the world, to ensure that you deal in a transparent, fair manner with all your stakeholders and as a responsible corporate citizen. Now, as a communications professional, so my job too was to showcase and to highlight all the good that a company is doing, which includes all of the above. So if we are doing something good for the environment, if I am taking steps, to mitigate my environmental policy, so then I have to talk about it. There's no point in me doing it if the world outside it doesn't know. So my reporting also has to ensure. So similarly, if I'm a very good employer, if I follow great practices, if I ensure work-life balance for my employees, etc., then I will be participating in all of these HR surveys and awards, etc., to ensure that I attract good talent. I continue to attract good talent, and I continue to retain the talent that we already have. Or even governance, good corporate governance results in a good share price. So again, you always anyway talk about it. You have an opinion, on what should be done, what should not be done. So I have always been, very closely involved with all of the people who are responsible for this, because not adhering to these practices would mean a reputation risk for the organization. So it's just that today all of this has come under the ambit of ESG.
True. Sir, as an ESG and corporate governance expert, what values do you bring forth?
Firstly, I do not believe there are too many experts in ESG around the world, and in India. Many people will claim that. I wish I could, but I don't. It is still an evolving field, and it is a very wide, it's a very broad field, and it's still a work in progress. As I said, there are all of these different headings: environment, social, governance. How does it all fit into your corporate hierarchy? How does it all fit into your structure? E stands for environment, which was under CSR. So the head of CSR, and so if your company is also doing your CSR where you have to spend 2%, so then does the head of ESG do it? Does the head of CSR do it? If it is the ESG, then does the head of CSR report to the head of ESG? Then there is a social one. Social has HR in it. So does HR report to the ESG head now? Corporate governance is the responsibility of the chairperson of the board, right? So who does this ESG head report to? Is it reporting to the CEO on a day-to-day basis? Who's the line manager? So if it is the CEO who's the line manager, who is also responsible for the appraisal, the annual appraisal of the ESG head, and if the CEO is not following corporate governance norms, can the ESG head report that to the board? If it is to the board, and if the chairman is not following those norms, then what does the ESG head do?
Yeah.
So there are a lot of questions today. I have seen, news stories of companies across the board looking for ESG heads, and I also wrote about it in LinkedIn post. And I said, I'm not sure that the companies have thought through this. That if you actually need to do this in letter and in spirit to ensure that all the right boxes are ticked, all the right steps are taken, that the ESG head. So again, all of these aspects, they also report to the board, right? The board will take care of the HR. So especially, that the right kind of increments, bonuses are given to the employee to this. So they have an overview of it. They have an overview on the corporate governance aspect. The CSR committee will look at what money has been spent on CSR. So environment might and would come under that. But this would be bigger than the CSR. So if I'm a manufacturing company, if I'm a steel or a cement manufacturing company where I have got a very heavy environmental footprint, then what am I doing for that? Now, of course, I can only do so much that viable new technologies will allow me to do. Which is I can implement those technologies, but they have to be feasible enough that my product pricing does not go out of whack. So you have to balance several things. So just because I'm on the board and environment is something there, it does not mean that you're not doing enough and you need to. It's just not possible. So it has to be feasible, possible, viable. But it's still a very, very vast field, very, very broad today. And I'm not sure that there are too many people who have got a handle on it. And too many people haven't thought through how should all that reporting be? What should that structure be? What should the hierarchy be? Should there also be reporting to an external auditor or a regulator who has an oversight overview over this function? Is it just the board? Well, the board cannot be responsible for the day-to-day line management of this person. Then who is it? How do you ensure that this person is effective? So these are all questions. I don't have the answers. Again, I do not have the answers to it. I will not claim to be an expert. I will not claim to have the answers.
But you've always said you're the man with the right questions.
I am the man with the questions. Again, whether they're right or wrong will be determined by the person who has the answers, who will tell me whether my question was logical or was idiotic. and it could be both. It's just that I
at least it is promoting exactly, and it's provoking thought, which is most important.
Yes, I hope it does.
So what are some of the most remarkable changes you've seen in your field with changes in technology? And what changes do you expect to see with the advent of IoT, AI, ML, blockchain, big data, Web 3.0?
We haven't scratched the surface yet. And while the changes will be very far-reaching and will be huge, I don't think we fully understand the extent of it. Either we are overestimating the extent of it or we are underestimating the extent of it. See, artificial intelligence, machine learning is already able to create content. Right? We've seen that ChatGPT, you've used the free model that was available. They can write a 50-word tweet, write a 500-word article, write a 5,000-word case paper or something. They will do it in a matter of seconds. So far, the free versions that we've seen, they have been rudimentary at best. They've been school level. Right. But as this technology evolves, as machines continue to have access to more and more data, trawl more and more of the information on the web, they will come there faster, sooner rather than later. So they are already creating written content, they're already creating visual content. So all of these will change substantially. Today, you already have, so people have done experiments in other countries, where they input the information and then the AI wrote the stories, the news stories. So in a way, if I were to look at it from my point of view, the journalists then are redundant. You input an accident took place at this time, on this date, 2 people injured, and the AI will do different kinds of stories on it. So journalists technically may be redundant. If journalists are redundant, then the communications, who do I engage with? What is my human interface? For a corporate which is doing internal communications, if most of my people are replaced by AI and ML because of all of the routine and the mundane tasks, the monotonous tasks are being done by the robots and the machines, what internal communications am I doing? What so that S of social? What are we doing if machines are replacing humans? But on the flip side, the output is dependent on the input. So the quality of information or the data that is fed in will determine the output that you get. So will those jobs evolve to the people who input that data in the right manner so that the output can be of a certain quality? So all new emerging technologies have changed the way we function. So whether it was the industrial revolution of the 17th, 18th centuries when machines replaced human labor, whether it was when cars replaced horse-drawn carriages, when computers replaced typewriters and many other things. So we have evolved. We have evolved to a slightly higher level of, will it take time? It will. Will it cause a disruption in societies and communities? It will, especially in countries like India, which have a very young population. Not so much in Western countries who have got very few people in the first place, who are looking for people, who are looking for talent.
Yeah.
So they may not be impacted as much. It will just bring down costs. But what about countries like us, where you have got all of this huge population which needs jobs, and companies are feeling that I can actually cut costs by getting AI and ML into it, by getting the latest technologies into it. I will become more efficient, and I will become more cost effective and more competitive in the market. So again, while that will happen, the nature of jobs will change. The low-level jobs will certainly be most impacted. But that disruption, I think, if I were to look at it from a community perspective, from a society perspective, from a country perspective, I think short-term disruptions before that evolution takes place. And when computers started, we were all learning programming, basic, Fortran, COBOL, and all of that. Everyone started doing IT engineering, and so IITs, no one was doing civil and mechanical. Everyone was doing computer engineering. So today you will have a lot of people doing AI and ML and data for all the jobs that they do. So I said, that it is extremely interesting. We are either overestimating or we are underestimating, but the impact will be huge sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Sir, as you know, we're building a community of industry magnates. The move is meant for cross-pollination of knowledge and building a knowledge-sharing community of corporate giants and industry experts. What are your thoughts about this initiative taken by Mr. Zishan Pathan, Mr. Heval Mehta, and the whole World Development Corporation team?
I think it is an idea whose time has come. It is a very critical initiative, and my congratulations to the team for the effort. Now, there is absolutely no doubt that diversity is extremely critical, not just in terms of gender, but in terms of thought, in terms of education, background, upbringing. We are all the sum total of our upbringing, of our environment. And that diversity of thought is necessary for the advancement of our communities, of our societies, of our organizations, of our countries. It is only by sharing our thoughts and learning from each other will we be able to grow individually and collectively as well.
Yeah.
So I think it is extremely critical, and I hope to learn from many other experts from different fields. Like when I'm starting to become an independent director, I see that most of the people on various boards are chartered accountants. So there is a sameness of thoughts, and I hope again that I can contribute my diversity of thought and ability to keep asking lots of questions.
Yes.
And learning in the process.
100%. Great, sir. It was fantastic conversing with you, and I'm confident that your insights will really inspire future leaders. Thank you for joining us today, and wish you all the best for your future endeavors. Moreover, trust that this initiative by Directors Institute unquestionably has expanded the participants' understanding and enriched their minds. Thank you, sir.